the commissioning of a 2-inverter, 4-battery system, we're going to go to the top right of our products page and click Create Sanctuary, which will take us to our components page. We're going to add 1 inverter, so we have 2 inverters, and add 2 batteries. Again, confirming that we have a 2-inverter, 4-battery system. We can then click Next to connect our system to the internet. And we need to ensure that the inverter COM cable is connected to the splitter and that the splitter is connected to the inverter COM port on our Wi-Fi board. So I'm going to come over here and confirm that that is connected. And if you see, I do not have power on my WCM. At this point, I can power on my parent inverter and come over here and power on the child inverter. While I'm waiting for the inverters to turn on, I'm going to turn on the grid breakers for both inverters. I can look down here and I see that the white light is flashing. This indicates that the WCM has power and that it is searching for a Bluetooth connection. I can come back to my web app and confirm that the parent inverter WCM is powered on. And I go to the next page and it immediately pulls up available WCMs. I'm going to click on this top one and pair with it. And I look to the WCM and confirm that the white light has transitioned to blue, indicating that I am connected through Bluetooth. After doing so, I can now choose the internet connection. Again, I'm just going to select Wi-Fi. And again, it's important to note that we can hardline Ethernet to the WCM. I'm going to select my Wi-Fi, and it's going to take me to the next page where I can select the Wi-Fi I want to connect to. I can now enter my password and connect. After I've connected to the Wi-Fi, I can continue on to the inverters page. This page, again, is where we can update the firmware for the inverters and for the WCM. It is asking that I connect only to the parent inverter. Again, only one inverter can be connected to the WCM during this step. So I'm going to come back to my inverter and confirm that only the parent inverter is connected to the splitter, which is then connected to the WCM. After doing so, I can click Configure. And because this inverter has been updated and the WCM has been updated before, this process is very fast. If your inverters need a firmware update, this process is expected to take about 5 to 10 minutes. After it indicates that it has been successful, I can click Next. And this diagram shows me the steps that I need to take to update the child inverter. So looking at the web app, it shows that I need to disconnect the parent inverter and connect the child inverter COM cable. But again, it's important to note that you need to connect the child inverter first so that you do not lose power to the WCM. If I was to disconnect the parent, then connect the child, the WCM would lose power and I would have to reconnect via Bluetooth. So I'm now going to connect the child inverter first and then disconnect the parent inverter COM port. I'm now going to take the patch cable that I've previously run and connected to the child inverter COM port and connect it to the splitter from the WCM. I can now disconnect the parent inverter, and if you notice, power was never cut to the WCM. Again, after confirming that my child inverter COM port is connected to my splitter and that the WCM still has power, I can confirm that only one inverter, the child inverter, is connected to the RJ45 splitter. I can click Next. I'm now going to configure and update the child inverter. After waiting a few seconds, it shows that I can configure the inverter. And again, because this inverter was previously updated, this process was pretty fast. If your child inverter does not have updated firmware, again, you can expect that this process can take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. After my configuration is successful, I can click Next. It will now show me a diagram on how to wire the system so that I can move on throughout the commissioning process. It indicates I need to reconnect the parent inverter and keep the child inverter communication cable connected to the splitter. So now both inverters are connected to the WCM board. I can take my small patch cable from the parent inverter COM port and reconnect it into the splitter of the WCM board. So now my parent inverter COM port and child inverter COM port are connected. I can confirm that this is done, and I can now do an inverter systems check. And once that is passed, I can move on to the next step, which is configuring the batteries.